Welcome to News West 9's West Texas View with Johnny Lou Avery.
Welcome to the West Texas View. I'm Johnny Lou Avery, and our guest today is, again, Dr. Joy Anderson. I invited her to come back because we didn't have time last week to talk about immunizations. And this is something that's controversial, but also a lot of research has been done on this, and I wanted us to talk more about it. Dr. Anderson is with the Texas Tech Physicians of the Permian Basin. Her number will be rolling across the screen, and you can access her through that number. But I wanted, and I appreciate so much your coming back. And I want you to just stop and talk a little bit about how you got into medicine and into this specialty before we start talking about it.
Would you like the romantic story or the true story?
Well, let me see.
The true story is I went to art school at the School of the Art Institute of Chicago, and I did some medical illustration. And I actually applied to med school on an absolute whim, which sounds so not thought out. And I just figured, well, art's kind of a selfish field, and I'd like to do something where I actually help people. And so I literally applied to med school on a whim and got in. And it changed everything about how I thought about things, and here I am now. But, you know, a lot of the decisions I make are sometimes kind of rapid fire and end up being the best things for me.
Which is what you have to do when you're in medicine.
Yeah, a lot of times. A lot of times.
But this kind of goes against what all I had heard, that you've got to steep yourself in science and math and all this stuff. And so you didn't have much science and math?
No, I actually took it at a community college, and I actually got away with taking principles of physics in art school. So, but I'll be honest with you, I'm not a fluid shift doctor, so I don't see physics hardly ever. That's not something that I ever encounter. And a lot of medicine is having a personality where people feel like they can sit down and talk to you.
Yes.
You know, I can talk all I want to about physics and calculus or about anatomy, but the reality of it is, if my patient won't fess up that she had sex with 5 men last week and needs to be treated for a sexually transmitted infection, or that she's on methamphetamine when she's pregnant and needs to be treated for that, then I'm not going to get anywhere.
Or that she's having trouble between her husband and her because of
or being beaten
sexual
or
problems.
something awful. Yes.
And so you're trying to have the develop a relationship.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of times when I talk with patients, I say, okay, I'm going to give you 10 minutes of doctor advice, and I'll give you 5 of girl advice. And there's sometimes some common sense things like anxiety disorder a lot of times isn't a medical thing, it's a thorn in your foot thing. And so dealing with that thorn can be more helpful, and addressing that thorn on a kind of no-nonsense realistic base is sometimes a lot more helpful than pushing some pills on someone. So, and there's a lot of times, especially in gynecology, women are thinkers. We're thinkers. And a lot of the things that we look for with a doctor is not, in myself, what I look for with a doctor is not pushing a pill on me, but talking to me and helping me think.
And what am I doing to make this problem worse?
What can I do to fix it?
What can I do to?
Absolutely.
But then how did you get to if you went to art school in Wisconsin?
Chicago.
Chicago. And then did something else in Wisconsin.
Residency in Wisconsin, med school in San Antonio.
And then how did you get to Texas Tech?
Well, my family's in San Antonio and Austin. And I came from private practice in Tennessee for 7 years. I get restless after I live somewhere. Tennessee's beautiful, but I miss Texas, and my family's here, and I have little kids, 3 and 5, so it's kind of time to get closer to home again. And frankly, it was an opportunity to teach, and I've always loved that. And I regretted going into private practice, to be real blunt with you. I kind of regretted that, and I missed the teaching. Because patients can come and go, but an impression I can make on a doctor is going to change patients for the rest of their life, too.
You're going to be a pebble in the water.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's much more an opportunity to change bigger things. And also, I think residency training is pretty awful. It's kind of nice to have someone that's not always in academics doing that. So I like to think I bring a different viewpoint to it. Good or bad, different.
And the important thing about all of this is that when you come into this, you've got a more well-rounded personality with your fine arts background, the softer side of you. It certainly comes through in your personality.
I talk a lot about other things to the residents and to the to my patients. So I think that's a lot of what patients want. You know, I think it's awful to go in and unfortunately it's been foisted on me to have this happen with a patient just because of time constraints, but it irks me every time to walk in and have a patient be changed, and a lot of that's through staffing issues and things like that I can't control. But if it were me, I'd have a walk-in clinic. So don't say that out loud.
But let's clarify exactly how Texas Tech physicians operate, because they are all teachers in the medical school, but they also have practice through the clinic. And so it's just like going to any other clinic. Your insurance works.
Yes, absolutely.
You have the benefit of seeing several kinds of doctor specialties if you need to be referred right there in the same clinic.
And the better thing too, I think, about academics, and coming from private practice, I could say this, you know, in private practice we didn't have peer review committees. We had it through the hospital, but it was more if somebody was doing something absolutely dangerous, malpractice, you'd be brought up with stuff from peer review. But in academics, people look at every stinking thing that I do. And if I do unnecessary hysterectomies, unnecessary C-sections, let me tell you, I hear about it. And so we're brought up and we talk about why we did what we did. And also, I gotta say, some of the residents have some brilliant ideas. I mean, they come at things just in a really creative way, you know, and they think
with
about—
fresh eyes.
Absolutely, absolutely. When I was in med school, I picked up a brain tumor. A gynecologist picking up a brain tumor. I mean, come on. And I haven't thought about neuroanatomy since then, but I tell you, I was close enough to it to see that the other doctors were missing it. And that's an advantage of coming to an academic center. A lot of people have an impression that you're going to get experimented on. You know, honestly, I can train my husband, who's not medical at all, to do the things that I do. Hand skills are the things that are relatively easy to train. People skills are not. The skill of picking up something and thinking about things in a different way, that's what we're there for. And I mean, my hands, I can teach physical things. That's an easy thing to do. So it's not a matter of experimenting on a patient. I'll be honest with you, you probably get more experimentation from people in private practice sometimes. And again, I was in private practice. I'm not pointing fingers. But when you're held up to a standard every day, it's a different world. It's a different world.
But you also keep up with the latest research as a teacher.
Yes.
The latest research and the latest...
yes, to a fault sometimes, because I think we do a lot more robotics and things like that.
We're going to have to take a break. We'll be back in just a minute and continue this conversation with Dr. Joy Anderson.
Stay tuned. West Texas View will be right back.